And that is the life of entrepreneurship. So it looks, the grass is always greener or whatever, and people say they want that until you get it, and you're like next week, for example, I would love to check out and just be on the beach with my wife and daughter.
What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Amazing Marketing Show, where we talk about all things marketing. I'm Dmitri Smirnov here with Chris Gray. Chris, what's going on?
Dmitri, what up?
You know what I'm going to say. I'm living the dream as always. So, how are you?
Same here, brother. Life is good. I have been kicked in the balls this week with meetings after meeting after meeting, but it's technically a meeting on my calendar, but this is one of my favorite meetings this week by far.
Yeah, I hope that at some point soon here we can figure out the technology plus be in the same place at the same time where we can start recording some of these in person because I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. Super dope.
But meetings, yeah, meetings can bog you down, or on the other hand, they can actually give you some energy. So that's nice to hear that this is a meeting that you like.
Yes, sir.
So what's going on this week in your world, in the business world? What are these meetings about? Anything fun or interesting you've got to share with us?
Oh, that's a really good question. This is a man in the arena moment. For those who don't know what the man in the arena is, look up the quote. Basically, if you're in the arena, you're going to get punched, kicked, hurt, right? But it's better than being on the sidelines watching. But my man in the arena moment this week was dealing with one client who was just being an asshole, man, at the end of the day. And it's one of these clients where I don't know if this has happened to you, Dimitri, where you are compared to what they are paying you, you are delivering and some, but you have to convince this client why you're delivering and show them how you're doing even more than they anticipate. So, me and my business partner and our team over here clearly see the value we're providing. Unfortunately, the client does not, and we're doing our best to communicate this. And we are not terrible at communicating value. We typically do a very good job, and most all our clients get it. But there's just this one client. I don't know if he has some kind of thing going on. We wonder. I don't know. I won't speak to that. But he comes off as an asshole, and he is giving us all this lip about us not doing our job when we are. And that meeting is just it's so frustrating. Makes your armpits sweat. Makes you want to fire the client. And it's like, man, I don't need this type of crap. Have you been in this situation before?
Yeah, I think there's a certain kind of personality that anytime they meet with you, or I'm guessing with anyone, they want to show how much they know and how they can find the mistakes if there are any, even if there are, it's like it comes off very aggressive and not like a partnership. And it's I mean, look, this is a win-win scenario when we work
Mm-hmm.
together. So why are you treating this like I'm your lowly employee that you hired to just kick around? That has happened to me before, but I will say I think the more relevant case in my experience was when I was working at another place and I felt like my value wasn't seen, and I guess I did a poor job at communicating what I was doing.
You said something that stood out to me, which is you're right. It's like these types of people act like you're on the opposite side of the table. We're on the same side of we're on the same team here. Why are you picking me apart as if I'm an enemy? And you're right. I feel like this is that type of person who's just it's this person versus everyone, probably their own family. It's just you just got beef with everybody, and if you don't have it, you're going to find it and invent it.
Yeah, I did have one client that was especially unusual where every meeting was an hour, hour and a half, where I spent maybe 10% of the time talking, if that. And it was just a whole explanation about how smart the client was. and really not a lot of anything else. It was kind of a waste of time. I ended up having to assign a different team member because I said I can't do it anymore. You can work with this other guy and see how it goes. But if it doesn't work out with him, like, sorry, it's just something that's not going to work out. Like at some point, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's where I was with this guy on the call, and I thanked my business partner afterwards, um, because I was getting to the point where I was going to take it away, and not as a tactic. Like, no, like, really, look, if I'm not doing a good job, then see you. Like, fire us, go ahead, man, bye. I was getting to that point because these types of people, I just have little patience for. And I guess that's an opportunity for me as a business owner to be able to deal with those situations, because we're going to get those types of people. But thank goodness we hired a client manager, so I can just go ahead and pass it off to this client manager.
Yeah,
Because
right.
I'm not doing that call again.
Well, that's multiple good points. Is a cool props to your business manager. I mean, your business partner, I guess. That is your business partner on this call that was initially helping you. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes it pays to have partners. I think if you have the right partners, it really does pay, and like they can bail you out on the phone calls, especially. There's sometimes you don't have something good to say, but the other person does, and you can riff off of each other, bounce off each other, brainstorm with each other. It's nice to have two people on a call. Second good point you made was you're gonna deal with these types of clients, so maybe it is an opportunity. Is no one else wants them? Well, if I figure out how to deal with them, maybe I'll make more money.
hmm
And so, but you have a manager now, client manager, so should be all taken care of.
yeah, yeah, man. What about you? Anything interesting from the arena this week?
Oh man, the arena. Yes, I mean there's. I think one of the more interesting things that's going on is really in depth data analysis that we're doing, and this prospect that I was talking to recently called it what it really is. I never thought of it this way, but it turns out what we do is data forensics.
I
Like we're
love that.
investigators of the data, and then like we find where the murder weapon is buried somewhere in the like what's killing the traffic, or on the opposite end is what's actually driving all the sales. And so really deep data work right now, where I think it's going to result in some pretty solid improvements across many clients. That I am excited about for in a big way. I do have a negative story, but let me pause there if you have any comment on that.
No, I love that term. I think you better bookmark it and look up that URL if that's available, because that's something that you, again, I've said this before. I believe like you're a marketing company, but marketing is kind of like your Trojan horse, and you come in and you end up really being a consultant, and part of that consultation is really data forensics, and so um, that's super dope.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I do. On the other hand, there was an issue where a client came to me and said, unfortunately, our business is failing, like, and the client's running out
Mm,
of money. Nothing to do with us. In fact, we're great. And I kind of went through this business forensics process with him by starting to ask questions, and it turns out there were like three major problems that included the sales team, it included the operations. But the third thing that really broke this business, because when I came in, it was kind of weakly operated already and a weak sales team, quite frankly, already. And when we came in, we doubled the revenue literally in a month. We doubled from, I'm not going to say what the revenues were, we doubled it. And that broke everything. It just,
mm.
they were excited about all the sales when they were coming in the first 2 months, but by month three, jobs were late. We're getting complaints, phone calls going unanswered. Sales team gets overwhelmed because they have to deal with both the double influx of traffic plus the old customers that they never use. So it's like all this, it actually ruined the business. A big lesson in there where growth can sometimes be your worst enemy.
There is a lot to unpack there. That by itself could be an episode. I've seen similar things like that with the companies that we work with. But at the end of the day, when you have rapid growth at a short amount of time, you're going to end up with stretch marks.
Yeah, and in this case is like a full C-section, and that just is like, I mean, everything had to get extracted, and right now it's in a rebuild phase of just kind of cleaning house and then starting over, and sometimes you just got to do that.
Hmm.
Okay, next thing, the main thing we want to discuss today is something that's probably on everybody's mind is how they can make more money, I think. How can I make more money, right? That's on your mind, isn't it?
It always is, and I have to like tame that part of my brain. But yes, it is on my mind a lot.
Okay, well, it's on I think it's on everyone's mind. I mean, everyone wants to make more money, and especially if it's a matter of paying the bills, putting food on the table, paying your rent, and all that stuff. You got to find a way to make those payments. At the same time, you see all the people on Instagram out in Europe or something on a beach with a margarita, and they're working from the beach, and you're like, what the heck? I want to be that guy or that girl. I want to work on my own schedule. I want to be independent of an employer. So, kind of, how do you balance those two things?
There's so much that comes to mind with this. Um, let's go to the thing that you just said about you see somebody on the beach with a laptop and a daiquiri and they're working and you're like, wow, it must be nice. Um, I want to go straight to that and then talk about the gig economy as a whole, but I want to go straight to that. You look at that and you think it must be nice until you actually have it. Meaning, don't get me wrong, it is nice to be on the beach on a Tuesday. And if you have your laptop and you're working from there, that's great. I am in the fortunate position to where I'll be flying out to Destin next week for my family vacation. Vacation. But guess where I'm going to be? I'm going to be on the beach by my phone or a laptop in case some shit hits the fan because I'm an entrepreneur and I don't ever really get a full vacation. So when you're working for a corporation or a job, you punch in, you punch out, you take your leave or your PTO or whatever it is, you could be on the beach not doing shit and chilling. And then you look at the person over there on the laptop and you're like, man, it must be nice to be them. And they're making money from, is it? Because that is their break, is they're working on their break. And that is the life of entrepreneurship. So it looks, the grass is always greener or whatever. And people say they want that until you get it. And you're like next week, for example, I would love to check out and just be on the beach with my wife and daughter. Our business right now is at a point where I can't do that next week because there's so much happening.
I think, though, as things are progressing with your business, at some point you probably will be able to take that vacation. It's like you're working your way up to it. So, yeah, in a corporate, it's so true that it may seem glamorous, and in a way it kind of is, but in a way you're actually never offline. You're never
Yes.
not there. But as a client, I want to hire you because even when you're on your family vacation in Destin, if something goes wrong, you're on top of it. So I like as I hearing that, and I'm the same way. It could be 4th of July, and I'm especially 4th of July. I mean, the
Yes.
businesses that we're in, it's 4th of July. It's Thanksgiving. Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving. That whole weekend is completely packed. That it's a staying up. It's a waking up in the middle of the night. Sometimes staying up throughout the whole night to adjust bids and see what's going on. But that's I don't know about you, but I kind of have fun doing that.
Yeah, I have fun doing that too. You say 4th of July or Labor Day, whatever it is. I like those holidays because everybody is offline. Guess what? I get to get stuff done. This is what happens when you start to run your own business or do this or whatever. And then back to the point where you're talking about with the gig economy, I I think that, let's say, say you don't have a full on business, right? Business and self employed, two different things, right? Business, you typically have things getting done, even though you're not there, even though you're not the one doing it. That's a business, right? Self employed, it's all you, everything's all you. And this gig economy gives people the opportunity to do that. I think I'm transitioning to a different subject, so bring me back if you need me to. But what I do like about the gig economy, Dimitri, is I got into this marketing game late 2014. Things like Upwork and Fiverr and all that were around, but they weren't as popular. I believe, had I been studying marketing the way I was studying it, and Upwork was where it's at today, or Fiverr, or whatever these programs are, I would have had an easier time starting my career in marketing, because I could have just took side jobs here and went from that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a bit, and then we'll bring it back to the overall gig economy and what small businesses and individuals should do as people in the gig economy. But to the point that you were making, 2014, it was actually hard to be in marketing back then. To like because there wasn't the resources that we have today. There weren't the YouTube videos, there weren't the courses, there wasn't anything. You kind of had to learn under some kind of a mentor, or
Hmm.
really struggle for a while with the guess and check approach. And if you're running affiliate deals, you're actually risking your own money. So,
Yep.
so there was a pretty significant barrier to entry. The field was much smaller. Now, I remember back then, it's like, what do you do? Internet marketing or online marketing? People are like, what's that? And that sounds sketchy, and it was kind of in a way. But now you say internet marketing, like, of course you do internet marketing because everybody does internet marketing.
This world we're in, I think Sam Ovens said this best, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Where, to Dimitri's point, in 2014, this was an underground thing. You had to know people, buy courses, risk your own money on these courses, because it wasn't always guaranteed they were going to be good. You had to find ways to learn and find ways to make money. Whereas today, you have people. This is a norm on TikTok. UGC, it's its own little market where you could be getting paid. Showing items is like it's become public, right? So our underground marketing affiliate world, whatever that is now just widely known to everybody. It's much easier to get started nowadays.
Yeah, it's completely mainstream, and
Yes.
with the marketing like off TikTok, and people are starting brands all the time. Generation Z, they wouldn't even ever think of not starting your own personal brand. Kind of, it's like, obviously I'm starting my personal brand, and obviously I'm going to try to sell something. And to them, that's not marketing. That's just life, right? That's just how life
Exactly.
works. Okay, let me do a quick overview of this whole gig economy topic. So, and then we can discuss a little bit further, and then potentially what people should be doing to take advantage of it. We know we have apps like Uber and Airbnb where you can set up your own business and run it as a self-employed person, and really run it on your own schedule. Then you have Fiverr and Upwork, like you mentioned, so you can have a skill like marketing on a Google Ads, or you're a really good designer, whatever it is. You could be a developer. Anything that is a traditional job can now be gigged, or they'll hire you for an hour or for 20 hours or for whatever the project is. A, is this a good thing? Is this a good thing that's happening?
I think it's a good thing that's happening. The counter argument may be that this is hurting the overall workforce of America, so on and so forth. But I look at it like this. Dimitri, he's first generation Russian. I'm first generation Jamaican. Um, our parents came here to America for to get away from stuff. They were not content with what was happening in their previous country. My parents in Jamaica, your parents in Russia. But there's a lot of people who went through what your parents went through in Russia, but they stayed. They're like, man, forget it. I'm chilling. Same thing in Jamaica. They stayed. So what that means, what I'm saying here is that people say it may hurt the workforce. There are some people who are not going to want to go do gigs. They don't have that hustle. They want to show up, be told what to do, check out, get a paycheck, or check out, get their check, go home. That's that.
Go on vacation and
Go
just
on vacation. Yeah. There's that person. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's somebody else out there. It's like, you know what? I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I want to make some money right now. I may not have a high value skill. I'm just going to go drive cars all day because at least I'm making my own money and doing what I want to do when I want to do it.
What do you think then is, as far as employers go, let's say you're running a small business, be it an agency or something online, or be it something in the physical world like brick and mortar store, restaurant, whatever. What do you think about hiring gig workers? Is it a good idea, or kind of stay away from it? And what's your experience been?
So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by a restaurant or somebody hiring a gig worker.
I think that I guess defining what a gig worker is. So you can have a W-2 employee and then you can have a contractor. Those are two different things. A contractor can kind of come and go as they please. Like I used to be a contractor as an ice hockey referee and I could pick my own schedule. I guess now that I think about it, I've been a gig worker since I was 13. Because I was an ice hockey referee for 10 years starting then. And I got to pick my own games, when I was going to work, where, all this stuff. But I was free to work anywhere. I wasn't tied to one certain ice rink. So I think maybe in a restaurant or a brick and mortar, you can hire someone who's just going to be there. They are W-2, fully employee, whatever that comes with legally. Or you can have people who are specialized in whatever skill they have, but they come and go based on their schedule kind of, and they maybe can work with your competition too.
I like everything about the latter except for them working with my competition as well. I, in a perfect world, I would like to have employees who worked remotely on their own schedules, but their work, let's say it's high value work, they could get some kind of financial compensation for the work that they do for the company. So you're not a W-2, you're a contractor and you eat what you kill for the most part, plus maybe some little base thing or something like that. Because um, there may not be as much quote unquote stability, but I'm attracting somebody who has more of the potential to hustle. Whereas in my experience with W-2s, even in corporate America, there's a lot of quitting, silent quitting, or or what is it they call it? Working your wage or acting your wage, meaning they're just gonna do. I mean, because it doesn't matter whether you give them, they're getting the same paycheck no matter what they do. So they're just gonna do just enough to get by and not get fired. And I saw a lot of that.
That's so true. That reminds me of a story I heard about a friend of mine who's been working for the government for I think 10 years at this point. And you know how like there's corporate America, but then there's government work, and it's like almost impossible to fire anyone once you're a W-2 for the government. And his I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I'll repeat in case you guys haven't heard it, that episode. But his whole day at work revolves around how many times he can go to the bathroom without people noticing. Like the amount of brain power put in of figuring out other people's schedules, when they're going to lunch, and like when the boss is in and who's walking by his cubicle at whatever time. And he's like, could have been a high paid private investigator with all the effort that he put in just to like get paid the maximum amount to poop at work.
This is what you get when you have just W-2 people who get salary.
Yeah. They get salary benefits and you can't fire them. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have, I would say that agencies like ours are technically part of the gig economy. If somebody's not hiring their own internal marketing teams or sales teams or whatever, they're going out and picking someone who technically can work with their competition and using their expertise and fractionally paying them. So, I mean, you run an agency, but what do you think about that model?
Yeah, you're right. We are basically part of the gig economy. And the only difference with us in my space, um, if you're a plumber in let's say Dallas, and I already have a plumber in Dallas, I don't take you on as a client. But beyond that, like we are basically the marketing department for several home service companies. So then, how does that work for you? Let's say that you had two clients; they both sell computer monitors. Would you be able to take both of them on in your world?
It's not something that comes up often because the clients that we work with are so niche typically. But I would never take on a direct competitor of a client that we have. I never do that. In fact, I've been approached to do that, and it was always a heck no. Like I can't. And they know I'm working
Smart,
with the company, but it's like an immediate no. Of course not. I'm not going to work with you.
smart. It's like you're then like a mercenary with no kind of values. You're just hey, whatever, whoever's paying the highest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think
interesting.
I don't think that would be a long term profitable or optimal way of running the business. Yes, you can make more money that month, but are you going to
Yeah,
make more money
yeah.
that year, that decade? Probably not. Almost certainly not. Okay, so everyone is wanting to work on their own schedule. If some So a lot of people are coming up right now, of course, the new generation, they are doing TikToking and all this stuff. Does it make sense for them to kind of go all in on the gig economy, even though, let's say, the traditional economy is kind of against it? You know, if you don't have a W-2, no one wants to sell you a house and things like that. That's all the old school thinking. But aside from that, should people be getting into this, and if so, how?
I think that everybody should go the Dimitri route. If Dimitri just said he's been doing the gig stuff since he was 13, if I was cognizant of it, um, I would have. For me, that would work best for me because I have issues with authority. Wherever my mommy and daddy issues are, it manifests itself with authority. And so for me, growing up in this day and age with so many opportunities to make money and just so many opportunities out there, I don't see why you wouldn't take advantage of making your own schedule, making as much money as you want or as much money as you can, given the jobs that you have access to, or just chilling. I would do that. And me specifically, I like working remotely. I don't want to walk dogs. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do anything that requires like manual labor. I'd want to be able to do everything I could from my home. So I wouldn't be doing Uber and all that stuff. Like I might do Airbnb, right? That's different. Um, but things like that that allow me to work remotely, I would be all in. I'm already all in.
Yeah. Well, one note on that is with the gig economy and the online gig economy, especially, that's bringing in the entire global market online. And so, on one hand, especially for employers, it's a really good thing. We can find much cheaper professionals from around the world. There's an arbitrage opportunity for the moment. But for the people working, especially in the U.S., you're kind of getting priced out. It's like unless you're a super duper expert, working online as a gig person is difficult to compete in. And so people probably are going in that physical space like Uber, like Airbnb, like walking dogs, because nobody international can do that. You actually have to be there. And so that job's safe.
Man, you're right. A lot of these jobs are, what is the word, commoditized, right? Because I can get a graphic designer in the Philippines for nothing, right? Whereas you might have gone to college for your graphic designing degree, but what you're trying to charge me is astronomical. And so if you're going to do something like this in this online space, you have to be in a space that's driving value, driving extreme value, right? And so, like, let's say you're a super badass media buyer, right? And you're in the states and or whatever it is, you got to you have to really do something that provides a lot of value to the bottom line and be really good at it, to where I would want to pay you as opposed to hiring somebody in Pakistan who's decent at it but may not understand copy and the culture here and this and that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And ultimately, as a business owner, you're trying to figure out what's going to be most profitable to you. So if you have to pay a local agency 10 times more than you would international, but it makes you more money, then it's an easy decision anyway. You just,
Yes.
as the agency, have to show that that in fact is working out for the business owner. There was one other point before we wrap I wanted to say was, uh, shoot, it kind of slipped my mind. We were talking about gig economy. Man, I don't know if I can
What
think
we
of
were
it.
talking
Oh,
about. Yeah, go ahead.
there was. I wanted to just mention another story from my childhood. Since we brought up my refereeing at 13, I wanted to share this with you. It was like, it was really cool to have money because I was making, at the time, it was like $30 a game, which would take an hour and 10 minutes, and I'd usually do two at a time, and I'd make $60. And as a 13-year-old, I was making a few $100s a month easy. And by the time I was could drive on my own, I was making thousands of dollars because I was just driving all over the DC area to referee games. But when I was 13, I was so anti Apple. Everyone had an iPod from Apple, and I'm like you. I'm anti, not anti. I'm like, there's some authority, or I don't want to also be the same as everyone. So I didn't. I
Yeah.
refused to buy the iPod. But while other people's parents were paying for their iPods, which were $300, I remember I was buying myself a Napster MP3 player.
Napster.
Yeah, which was so bad that it broke, and I had to buy another one. And meanwhile, and like it's just the usage was so the but anyway, I got to pay. I think I ended up buying three Napster MP3 players for $300 each, but it was with my own money.
And you get to stand on the fact that you did not get the iPod.
I did not, and in fact,
Yeah.
I held out for almost 20 years until I finally switched to an iPhone and a Mac. And I gotta say, I could see what all the fuss is about. Quite, I mean, they're really good.
That's gold.
All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.